by advanced malware. Detected by malware is really a critical point because most companies are not aware for over 190 days that they have actually been breached until something becomes obvious or they just stumble up on it and realize that they have been owned by an attacker. A lot of companies then try to build their own security teams and quickly realize that it's not that easy these days to find actually suitable headcount for the open roles, right? It's become very, very tricky to find skilled security researchers and engineers. And once you have a team that is designed purely around security, those teams, the SOC team, typically spends most of their day just being reactive, right? So fighting alerts, reacting to incidents all across the network, all across their endpoint, while their time would be actually much better invested if they would be proactive, hardening the environment, training employees, and so on, instead of just putting out open fires. If we look at the traditional breach detection and how that works, of course, companies are aware of the risks in the market these days. We see a lot of isolated instances. For example, we have an endpoint team, we have the network guys, we have people looking purely after email, and then those alerts that those devices and applications generate are typically correlated in, let's say, a theme. And a theme is only as good as the correlation rules that a theme contains, right? They're just putting all the log files in there and hoping that it somehow works is not good enough. So you need to all correlate the information, which can be tricky because different vendors use different kind of fields, different information. Even just malware has a completely different name across the board. And then you typically enrich the information you have in your theme with some external intelligence feed. However, this really is just a semi-good solution. So it has a tendency to either create not good enough alerts or too many false positives. It's very hard to hit the golden middle. And it really just is not helping you that much to uncover any kind of existing infection, right? So you're kind of missing the global context. You're also probably not applying artificial intelligence. And when threat intelligence feeds are applied, it's very, very tricky to do it in a reliable and good manner. So the critical issues overall that the SOC teams are facing is obviously the telemetry information. We already mentioned false positives, limited attack or limited intelligence feed, and so on. Also the endpoint visibility, right? The standard classic antivirus client or endpoint client, how it's called nowadays, is really giving you not enough granular visibility when you need it, right? You want maybe historic information. When you uncover that you have been breached, then you want to see the moment you have been breached and not now. It's really hard to uncover modern advanced persistent threats that were designed to be invisible and as silent as possible for a traditional endpoint. And then once you realize that you actually have been breached, how do you react to it? What kind of tools does your environment give you to, for example, isolate a client, look for other indicators of compromise, and generally just remediate the situation ideally in automated workflow. With the amount of incidents we're seeing, if you're doing manual workflows for very complex scenarios over and over again, you will probably waste a lot of time and it will not be very cost effective either. And that's exactly when an EDR solution comes in, and my colleague Jean-Olivier will give you a good overview on that one.
Thank you, Björn. So before talking about EDR, it's important to understand Symantec and our global intelligence network. So our global intelligence network is unmatched, providing to all our products and teams unique visibility and early threat detection. We get telemetry for millions of global endpoints. For context, the nearest competitor is about 175,000 endpoints. So we have a massive data lake available to us for all the data we collect and monitor in connection to Symantec products. So with all the data that we collect, we analyze the threat actor profile, spam campaigns, file, and malware. So in addition to our technology, protection technologies, we analyze and interpret this massive amount of data And with our threat intelligence team, which is composed with 5,000 people in 6 global different security operation centers, working 24/7 and on specific industry, region, and customers. The threat intelligence team and our GIN, so the Global Intelligence Network, will provide a unique feature to Symantec EDR solution, which is called the Targeted Attack Analytics, which we will talk a bit more in detail during the presentation. So the Symantec Endpoint Detection and Response is integrated with the Symantec Endpoint Protection Agent. So it's a single agent giving you a full protection. So with the traditional anti-malware, antivirus, with again the GIN to get the reputation of the file. So if a file is unknown but with a bad reputation, we will be able to block it. We have also the IPS feature, which is a protection looking at the network traffic incoming or outgoing, but also the advanced malware protection to defend against file threats, including memory-based exploits with the MEM or the memory exploit mitigation techniques, or even emulator, which is the light sandboxing, looking at custom packers. We have deception to expose attackers with malicious intent and already tactics to exfiltrate data, for example, but also lately SEP hardening to protect the good application, office application, to fight or disable the weaponized content, but also SEP application control to disable, to block specific applications that you don't want in your environment. And finally, the EDR solution. So all of these layers are in a single client. You don't have to redeploy an executable software to have the EDR capabilities, so to detect, investigate, and fix endpoint security. So this is the interlocking defense. So what we call the detection with the sub-clients. You can see that at the early stage, we block a lot of malware. So a lot of detection are blocked. Then if you go a bit more in detail, with the advanced protection, we will block fileless attack or unknown threat. So this is a single agent. And then with the EDR solution, you have automatic sandbox submission. So the unknown files will be sent automatically from the SEP client to the EDR solution for sandboxing. So we detonate the file, and we will give you the information if the file is clean or is suspicious, malicious, and what the file will do when it's executed on your endpoint. And then finally, at the end, we have the EDR solution, which gives you only few alerts, but really with really high critical events. So the EDR overview gives you will expose advanced attack with precision and allow incident responder to quickly search, identify, and contain all impacted endpoints. It utilizes behavioral analytics at the endpoint to detect stealthy attacks. So what we don't catch with endpoint protection will be detected by the EDR solution. So such as command and control beaconing, lateral movement, or even suspicious PowerShell execution. So to help customers to us and investigate, you can use the EDR database or also directly search on the endpoint for example, hash of a specific file or detection or action. So it will give you the capability to quickly filter for specific attributes, identify uncommon values inside your environment. So customer can also collect or send suspicious files using our cloud-based sandboxing. So this is built-in capabilities of the EDR solution, or you can integrate with on-premise sandboxing such as content analysis solution. But also you can rapidly fix endpoints. You can quarantine an endpoint, so isolate the endpoint from the network if you want to contain a possible compromised computer, saving time and blocking an infection on the network, so it won't be able to spread over the network to other endpoints. Remediate files, so you can use a global blacklisting for files or URL for the network sensor, but you can delete or collect files. And finally, you can automate the security operations center team best practices and analyze the incident playbook to gain in-depth visibility into your endpoint activities and automate artifact collection. So I talked about the global intelligence network and our data lake. So EDR will give you targeted attack analytics. So this is an option, a feature available since ATP 3.1, but it will give you the tools to detect sophisticated attacks. So previously unknown, what we call living off the land attacks that use existing tools in your environment or in customers' environments. So by utilizing clean system tools or administrative software such as PSExec and dropping a few files as possible, attacker avoiding blocked or caught by traditional security measures. And also memory-only attacks are even more difficult to detect as they leave very little evidence in their wake. Attackers are shifting their attack strategy from zero-day exploits to living off the land techniques. In fact, in the Security 2019, in Symantec 2019 Internet Security Threat Report, or ISTR 24, we note that zero-day exploit usage by targeted groups continue to decline. In 2018, only 23% of attack groups were known to use zero-day vulnerabilities, down to from 27% in 2017. So Symantec analyzed data from non-compromised machines and at process and file level, and assess the standard tool used at the time of compromise, and as well network activity. So we feed this telemetry to the learning model to train and to learn how the targeted incursion behaves, and then when we see similar suspicious behavior, we can create incidents in real time in our EDR technology. So the targeted attack analytics is enhanced by the endpoint activity recorder done on the Symantec Endpoint protection client, which allow the customer to conduct endpoint forensic analysis. So we record all the events on the endpoint. So we record everything that is happening on the endpoint, and you can retrieve anything on the local computer. So including all the file creation, deletion, registry key, input, output, or even network connection, and even more. So with EDR solution, Symantec provide answer to the question when you have a detection. So what happened on my endpoint before? Which files were used and where did they come from? We can give you the information about the network connection. So you have all the information. Why did you get a detection? How the malware tried to spread to other endpoints, and what process have been involved. So with a lot of data, EDR solution gives you a better visualization, because it's important with a lot of amount of data information to help the cyber system to generate high fidelity alerts. So they won't, as Bjorn said, spend too much time fighting alerts, looking at too much data presented in row and column, and require a lot of expertise to filter and operate the data. So EDR solution is visually powerful. The system provides a visual link analysis to learn the source, timing, and impact of an attack. You can see if there are different endpoints exposed to the same files, the same techniques, and you can directly interact with the graphic to collect, for example, files, to interact with the machine, or even to isolate an endpoint. So it transforms a large amount of data into a graphical interface, into graph, to quickly understand the context between the data, the endpoint, and to simplify the reporting for specific incidents. With the EDR solution now, we can recover, or we can detect anomaly and investigate on suspicious events, which means Symantec EDR helps your customer to remediate a threat. In case of an indication of compromise on the endpoint, you can quarantine, so isolate the endpoint from the EDR solution, so isolate the machine from the network, and still investigate on the endpoint. So blacklisting a file, or deleting or collecting the file to send to sandbox. Everything done on a single console, so on the Symantec EDR console, and you can rejoin the machine in few clicks. So instead of sending someone directly unplug the network cable, you can do everything from the EDR console. Symantec EDR supports playbooks, so you can automate the complex and multi-step investigation workflow from security analysts. The playbook leverages the work of the internal security operations center team by creating a baseline or blueprint for your existing endpoints, and then schedule a collection of information of artifacts, and then analyze the difference between to identify hidden adversary. You can use also the built-in playbook to quickly expose suspicious behavior, unknown threats, or even lateral movements and policy violations. So in addition, investigators can create their own playbook to automate their best practices and document specific threat hunting scenarios. And from the results, the investigator can collect files, remove or change registry keys, and see the end-user interaction and even more on the process level.
Yeah. Okay. So after looking a bit at the functionality of the product, let's take a look at the architecture of the EDR solution. So first of all, we have the traditional deployment that will be familiar to you if you follow the product for a while, right? So the product had a bit of a name change. It was known as Advanced Threat Protection or ATP before. And it was kind of a multiple control point product, as it still is, but the deployment itself on the ATP console was normally on-prem. So you have your agent, which is typically the endpoint agent, which then, as Olivier explained, can be used, for example, for activity recording. And the endpoint client is ideal for this, right? So we already have to the endpoint client a kernel-level driver running on the machine. So it's easy for us actually to record incidents around file access, registry access, network access, and so on. So the endpoint client will then also be used for uploading the information to the endpoint manager, and the EDR console will then import the information from the endpoint manager. The incidents and alerts that are then being synchronized are enriched, for example, with information around the meter attack framework. And we also utilize the endpoint client for one-click remediation. So you've already seen the graphical interface that Jean-Olivier showed you, where we show, for example, how files interact between different machines. And it's very, very easy to select one or multiple machines, right-click, isolate, and we will then utilize the endpoint firewall capabilities to isolate the client on the network. Of course, the traditional on-prem console also correlates information with the ATP network appliance, which could be physical, it could be virtual, and also with our email security cloud or email EDR solution, right? So when you have a file that comes in via email and you sandbox it, and the information around that sandboxing incident will then be synchronized with your on-prem EDR console, where they all will be put in context. Then we have the traditional cloud deployment or cloud EDR. Now this is famous for its dissolvable agent, which is available for many, many operating systems, including also Mac and Linux, which were previously not directly covered by the traditional on-prem EDR. Now the cloud deployment is where the playbooks come from, right? So we have the out-of-the-box playbooks, which really help you to deal with the most current incidents and provide like a framework, an automation framework for how you deal with an incident. The cloud EDR client is also ideal for forensic collection of artifacts. It's very, very easy when you see a machine might be infected. So you collect, for example, browsing history, information around previous actions, and so on. And then we have, and this is exactly where we are currently at EDR4, we combine cloud with on-prem into a hybrid solution. So we give you the new powerful EDR cloud console, which you have seen for out of few screenshots. But there's also still the on-prem solution available for certain actions. So you can leverage actually the best of both worlds, which make the product really a comprehensive offering that covers the requirements for customers that need on-prem, but also cloud management. You get roaming user support and so on, and you really get the best of both the cloud agent or the classic EDR client and the endpoint client. We also have a feature matrix here, which explains really which feature is available in which client. For example, one-click remediation is, I think, probably the biggest difference. You don't have to note this down. The presentation of today is actually available directly in BrightTalk under the attachment and link section. I see a few have already downloaded it. So the whole presentation is there available as a PDF for your reference. Now, there is quite a bit of integration going on here, and it will certainly exceed the scope of this presentation. We have very tight-knit integration between Endpoint itself and EDR, and obviously also between EDR and a cloud email or email security cloud. Now, there is also the action or the option to integrate, for example, a content analysis for on-prem sandboxing, where you mark a file as being suspicious, and it's being sandboxed in a customized sandbox directly in the content analysis appliance. Charlie also mentioned already the cloud sandboxing under the Cynic engine. At this stage, I really want to highlight the importance on Symantec.com/integrations. There is a nice portal where you will see all the Symantec products, and when you hover over them, it will show you all the other products and how they integrate. Again, that's Symantec.com/integration. Now, while the product is certainly a great product, very often the problems for the customer don't come in the product capabilities, but in actually the manpower, right? So who manages this product? Who looks into incidents? And this is exactly where our managed EDR solution comes in. So managed EDR the name is pretty self-explanatory. So the environment will be monitored by our experts, by our analysts on a 24/7 base. On a follow-the-sun scheme, right? So we have 6 global security operations centers. The customer's information will be constantly reviewed. We have a direct access to the incident response team, or a team that is basically responsible for analyzing all examples. This covers both on-prem and cloud environments. The team is allowed to go and manage threat hunting. So when they have a suspicion, they can, for example, record processes. You have pre-authorized remediation, giving the team access, if required, to isolate certain machines in the network. So it's really a very, very convenient method for a customer who needs the security, but they don't have the manpower. So a managed EDR solution is really the way to go for them, because they get access to world-class security analysts that look after their environment and also have the ability to react to any kind of threat going on. At this stage, our presentation is basically over, so we give you the opportunity to ask a few questions. If you have any questions, please send them into the BrightTalk chat function now. While we are waiting for questions to come in, I quickly want to highlight Symantec PartnerNet, where you find all the Symantec Partner Toolkits. Those could be marketing material. You get access to your NFR licenses, general technical information, pre-release information, roadmap, event checks, events, and so on. So again, that's on PartnerNet. If you have any kind of question around partner material, NFR licenses, and so on, I really want to highlight our partner service team, which is available under partner service at Symantec.com. And the folks over there will be able to assist you with anything partner related. We have a few questions coming in. The first one is, when will it be possible to use EDR with Step 15? Now, the short answer is I can't give you an exact timeline. I know it's on the roadmap with as soon as possible marked. The main focus for Step 15 this year is basically becoming, or is feature parity with the Step on-prem or Step 14 solution, right? So as you probably know, Step 15, for example, currently does not have location switching based criteria. It does not have a Linux client. And all those features will be added as soon as possible. But EDR integration is also developed directly. I can make a follow-up basically and contact product management and see if there's any news around an ETA for EDR integration. But at this stage, I can only tell you it will come very soon. This year, I assume. Don't quote me on it. But it's very high on the roadmap. Another question is the visualization available on the central console for the admin? Yes, absolutely. That's a very short answer. It's available both in the cloud console and on-prem. The search capabilities are not completely there's no parity there, right? So some search functions are only available in the Cloud Console, but yeah, the visualization is available.
Another question is what remediation tools are in EDR solution? So EDR solution can you can remotely delete files, collect files, send the files to sandbox, so PE files or non-PE files since EDR4. You can also remediate registry keys from the EDR console, cloud console.
Yeah, especially around the EDR cloud, there's like a lot also on incident response. I wouldn't call it right remediation. For example, collect certain artifacts, collect browsing history, and so on. That all might be very useful when investigating an incident. That could also be marked under remediation or at least investigation. One question is there a plan to have a hosted solution with all the features of both on-prem and cloud? To be honest, I don't know. We can select this with product management and see if there's like a plan for a fully hosted one, basically like a managed EDR, but also with where we host the environment. That is certainly a very compelling offering. We can certainly select this towards the PM team and make a follow-up.
Yeah. So the other question, can EDR in SEP connect through SEP Manager, or does it need connection to EDR appliance? So since EDR4, there's a new connection. So EDR can connect directly to the SEP clients, but it's also for few communication. Let's say you blacklist a file, the EDR solution will connect directly to the manager, update the policies, and the policies will be sent to the client. So there's two channels of communication. One directly from EDR to the SEP client, collecting files, for example. We don't need the manager for that. It's EDR to the SEP client, and some connection for blacklisting, for example, will be EDR to the SEP manager and then propagate to the SEP client.
Another question that came in was like, how heavy lightweight is your agent? When do you anticipate full Mac Linux support, or don't you? The Mac Linux support is already there through the EDR Cloud Client, or the EDR client now, as we have to say. When we will have full feature parity, for example, for the normal endpoint client for Mac and Linux, to be honest, I don't know. But the support for both operating systems is certainly available through the dissolvable agent. So those operating systems should not be a concern anymore. That's it at the moment for questions that came in. Again, you can always get in contact with us or our team on ito@symantec.com. Thank you a lot for attending. We would appreciate, there's a feedback from audience field, if you could give us your voting, how useful you found the information, or also like if you want to leave a short comment, more than welcome. This helps us to get better. Apart from that, have a good afternoon and have a successful week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.